Hey everybody, welcome back to the program. I am very excited because this is a video I've been dying to make since I started this channel, I believe. And I can't wait to get into it. We got 14 albums to cover, to rank from worst to best of Weird Al. So let's not waste any more time and dive right into it, starting with number 14, Polka Party. The standouts include the title track, and it's great to hear these snippets of these classic 80s songs in the polka style, and it really draws attention to the silliness of the lyrics. The other standout for me is Christmas at Ground Zero. It's fun, and it really showcases Weird Al's subversive, over-the-top comedy, which I think is where he shines the best. Overall, I mean, even when I was a kid, I forced myself to enjoy this album, but I gotta be honest, it's just not that good. Something about it feels rushed or just a little sloppy. It just feels a little off the mark when you compare it to his previous 3 albums and the one that came after this. For me, it comes down to the parodies he chose. I just really don't enjoy the original songs. They really annoy me, so it's hard to really listen to the parody versions of them, if that makes any sense. There's also a couple of originals on here that fall flat for me. They're amusing, but they're just not that funny. At Lucky 13, we have Alapalooza. The standouts for me include the wonderful Red Hot Chili Peppers medley twofer Bedrock Anthem, the REM style parody Frank's 2000-inch TV, which is an original composition, and my other favorite song on here is the Prince-inspired number Traffic Jam. I love how well he nails that early Prince sound, and as an original, it's highly creative. I would say the reason this album is so low is that it feels very uneven. It has a very good first half, but then the back half, it sort of falls off a cliff for me, and the only thing that really keeps it from ending on a sour note is the polka version of Bohemian Rhapsody. It's just ridiculous and fun and everything I love about Weird Al's polkas. But yeah, it's a bit of a yin and a yang. Like every other track I don't like. So it's like, yay, ooh, and then the back half is just like, ooh, 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 and then yay. So it's not that good, unfortunately. It's not his best work. At number 12, we have Poodle Hat, his 11th album from 2003, and the standouts include a great original song titled Hardware Store. It's got some fantastic lyrics, and I love how he samples these power tools, and I gotta say, as an adult, I spent a lot more time in Hardware Store, so I really relate to this song more now. I also really enjoyed his tribute to Bob Dylan, and the polka is very good on here. Overall, the flow of the album doesn't quite connect for me. It's not bad, but it's not great. And I think that has a lot to do with the parodies he chose. I'm just not into them. And in some ways, it feels like a transitional album for Al's career. It feels like he's trying to find himself within the changing pop landscape. And so he's just like pulling this song and this song. And I don't know, maybe it's just the fact that music keeps spreading away from each other, that it just doesn't quite jive. And yeah, it is what it is. I mean, it's a bit like Polka Party in the sense that I don't love a lot of the parodies, and that brings it down to where it ranks on my list. Coming in at number 11, we have Alpocalypse. The standouts for me include the Taylor Swift parody titled TMZ, which is a great send-up of that song because it really touches on sort of what Taylor Swift goes through with the paparazzi constantly going after her. So I love that sort of like feedback loop of the song. The other one I really like is the Miley Cyrus song. This is Party in the CIA, and this again is that great juxtaposition that Al does with his humor, just this over-the-top zaniness of the lyrics, almost subversive in a way, but then you have like these, pop melodies, and it just works so well. Overall, I would say that this album is held back a bit by a few songs that just fall a little flat for me. These include his originals and a few of the parodies. And speaking of the parodies, there are the same ones actually. I don't really enjoy the original songs, so I don't really like the parody, and you can kind of see how that's a recurring theme for a lot of these albums that fall lower on my list. It's not bad, it's not great. it falls at the beginning of the middle, the bottom of the middle, if you will. At number 10, we have Running with Scissors. The standout songs for me is his original third wave ska inspired song titled Your Horoscope for Today. It is just a wonderful showcase of his over-the-top, wild sense of humor, almost subversive, with these really catchy musical ideas. It just blends so well together. And the other song that really stands out for me is the last track, Albuquerque, and this is a showcase of that same over-the-top humor combined with some epic storytelling. I mean, this is such a gem of a song. You have to hear it if you don't know it. Overall, this is a very solid album that really reflects the pop music of that time, and I think you'll really like it more if you enjoy the parodies that he chose. Therefore, I don't enjoy the parodies as much, and that's why it ranked where it does. At number 9, we have his debut album from 1983, and some fun facts. This is the only record to feature his accordion on every track, and it's one of 2 albums to not feature a polka medley. So if you don't like those, you might really like this album. Now, some of the standout tracks for me is Gotta Boogie, which is a great send-up of disco, and it's a bit toilet humor-esque. Happy Birthday has got to be one of my all-time favorite tracks by Weird Al, and it really showcases that subversive humor I keep talking about. That's the kind of humor I think that Weird Al does so well. It's just, this song is just over the top and ridiculous, and he's got some great comedic turns within the song. Overall, this is a stellar debut album. It's a great mix of originals and parodies, and stylistically, the whole record flows very well, and I think that can be attributed to the fact that his accordion is on every song. At the number 8 spot, I have Even Worse, and this is the only other album to not have a polka medley. Now, some of the standout tracks include Stuck in a Closet with Vanna White, which to me is such a classic Weird Al Bizarro song. His Police-style parody, Velvet Elvis, is very well done, and in fact, it made me obsessed with trying to find a velvet painting of Elvis. But my ultimate favorite song is Melanie. Again, this is a brilliant showcase of his juxtaposition of sweet-sounding music with over-the-top lyrics. Overall, this has got a great cover, really good song choices for parodies, and some excellent originals. It just falls a little short for me because I can't stand a few of the original songs he chose to parody. Otherwise though, this is a super solid album. At number 7, I have Off the Deep End, his 7th album from 1992, and this has got to be my favorite of all of his album covers. Between this, the first track, and the accompanying music video was the perfect trifecta for little 10-year-old Eric. I just thought it was hilarious. I couldn't get enough of it. But other than that, the standout tracks for me, honestly, all the parodies are top-notch and must-listens in my opinion. This is really some of his best stuff. Overall, this album has a super solid lineup of parodies, but I think where this album falls a little short is in the originals department. They just aren't as strong as the parodies he wrote. So, in that respect, that's why this album ranks where it does. Coming in at number 6, I have the soundtrack to UHF. My standouts from this album include the REM parody Spam, the super catchy instrumental Fun Zone, and the title track UHF. And while I enjoy the bulk of the album, overall, it just doesn't feel as strong as the albums above it. And I think that has a lot to do with the fact that there are several shorter tracks on here, like one's like 16 seconds, and there's also the 2 commercials on here from the film. And while I really love those on their own, it does sort of interrupt the flow of the music. And so, like, on a larger scale, this album feels a little uneven in that sense, but if you break it into individual parts, I really like all the components, if that makes sense. At number 5, I have Bad Hair Day, his 9th album from 1996. My standout tracks off this album include Everything You Know Is Wrong, which is such a delight for the ears in terms of his wordplay and storytelling. Musically, Calling in Sick is such a well-done post-grunge song. The guitar tone on here is fantastic. And Gump, is such a good parody. I mean, you have to hear it. He just does it so very well, and the music video is hilarious. Overall, this is a super solid album that's an improvement over Alapalooza, which came out before it, but it's not quite as good as the albums coming up next. And that just, you know, comes down to personal preference. At number 4, I have Straight Outta Linwood, his 12th album from 2006. Some of the standouts include Pancreas, which is a great style parody of the Smile Sessions era of the Beach Boys. It is hilarious. You're gonna love it. The Sparks-inspired number Virus Alert is fantastic, and so is his parody of Trapped in a Closet titled Trapped in the Drive-Thru. Again, this is a brilliant showcase of his subversive comedy paired with his storytelling abilities. It just takes you on an adventure, and it's just so much fun to listen to. Again, this is another super solid album with some great parody picks and some highly creative original songs. I also adore the cover art. It just cracks me up when I look at it. I especially love the inclusion of the number 27 on the license plate. If you know Weird Al's music, you know that he includes that number wherever he can. It's just one of those things. It's a motif with him, if you will. And at number 3, we have In 3D, his second album from 1984. Oh my goodness, this is such a childhood favorite of mine, and I still absolutely love it, and so much of it has to do with the strength of the songs, especially the lead parody, Eat It. It is so funny, and the music video is fantastic as well, but my other standouts include Midnight Star. It's an original composition about those, they're not around anymore, but Weekly World News was this like fake newspaper, hilarious in their own right, but Weird Al does this brilliant send up to those. And then, but oh my gosh, my favorite track off of here is the closing song, Nature Trail to Hell. Oh my goodness, musically it is so incredibly creative, but lyrically this has got to be some of Weird Al's best. He just knocked it out of the park with this song. Overall, this album shows how his production really took his music up a notch from his debut. And this also set the tone for the rest of his career in terms of his accordion taking the back seat and the music itself really trying to mimic the original songs in the case of the parodies. Overall, I think this is one of his best albums. Obviously, I put it in my top 3. There's just a couple songs that hold it back for me. At number 2, we have Mandatory Fun. The standout tracks for me include Lame Claim to Fame, which is a perfect spot-on style parody of Southern culture on the Skids. I gotta say though, the subject matter of this song was really refreshing. It was something that I don't feel like Al has really tackled before, and it's just hilarious to listen to. Also, his Pixie style parody First World Problems is another one you should really check out. For what could be his final album, I thought he really knocked it out of the park. I was so impressed. In fact, I was surprised by how much I enjoyed this record. This was like my return to Al, the first album in a long time that I came to, and I thought he picked some great songs to parody and wrote some fantastic originals. Overall, this record works as an album. He did an incredible job on it. We're gonna move on to my number 1 album, Dare to Be Stupid, his 3rd album overall, originally released in 1985. Oh my goodness, what can I say? This album has some of my all-time favorite Weird Al songs, including my very favorite song, Dare to Be Stupid, the title track. Just a brilliant style parody of Devo. I also really enjoy Slime Creatures from Outer Space. It is such a fun song to listen to. One More Minute is just brilliant songwriting, very much that subversive juxtaposition of like sweet sounding music with hilarious over-the-top lyrics. And speaking of lyrics, This Is the Life is just fantastic. He is so very witty on this song. I highly encourage you to listen to all those. Check out the music video too, by the way. And I gotta say that this was my very first Weird Al experience. This was the first album I listened to by him, and it just blew me away. In that respect, this being my earliest, fondest memories of Weird Al, of course it's gonna rank high on my list. And, you know, I probably have some nostalgia glasses when I look at this album, but honestly, it is incredibly well written, put together. The song parodies are fantastic. The originals he wrote are very, very creative. It really is a top 3 album of Weird Al, and it's not just me saying it. Just look at any sort of other ranking that's out there. This ranks very high. But yeah, I just had to put it number 1 because it means that much to me. I would be nowhere without Weird Al in my life, and so this album is largely responsible for my humor, my sense of humor, my sense of comedy, timing, all that sort of stuff. It really boils down to this album. All right, everybody, that will do it for today. I had a blast putting this list together. It was very, very hard. I had to get rather methodical about it. I actually started to list out all the songs I didn't like and made a little ratio of, you know, like 6 out of 10, 11 out of 12 to like sort of rank them generally. And then I looked at them overall as albums, and like certain albums I then moved up and moved down below, because sometimes the sum of its the sum of its part is greater than the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. I'm getting that messed up, but you understand what I'm saying. It was really interesting to rank all these albums, to revisit some of my childhood favorites, as well as explore the lesser known albums, those albums I didn't really pay attention to when they first came out. And in some cases I was very, very pleasantly surprised with the output. And I gotta say, from 1983 to 2014, this dude is incredibly consistent. You could mix these all up and it'd be hard to pinpoint, other than the fact of, you know, when the parodies came out. You can kind of tell when those songs were popular in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, that sort of thing. But I gotta say, if you just took his originals and mixed them up, you'd be hard pressed to figure out which ones came out before the others, if you know what I mean, because he is so consistent with his voice, and his sense of humor has never strayed, and his wit stays very, very sharp throughout the years. It's just very impressive to go down the Weird Al rabbit hole, and I encourage you to do the same and leave me you don't have to rank all of them, just leave me your top 5, top 3 favorite Weird Al albums. Maybe leave some of your favorite tracks as well, your favorite tracks overall, because he has some incredible original tracks. And yeah, I just encourage you all to indulge yourselves. Spend a lost weekend going through all of Weird Al's music. All right, everybody, thank you all so much for watching. I especially want to thank my members over on Patreon. I'm your Vinyl Geek, and I'll catch you on the flip side.